Hello and welcome to DFS CoachTalk. It is Monday, May 3rd, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And how about a big weekend, Coach? You did it for us. Lots of winners, happy members, great stuff. How are you feeling on Monday here after that great weekend?
Oh, I'll tell you, man, I feel great, especially since we started slow. We knew it was going to be yesterday, we'd have to finish strong in the late games. But when you're sitting down there in the lower 10% of some of your 50/50s and single entries, you start to get nervous. It seems like a big road to, hill to climb. And we chopped away and passed into the cash line with about 2.5 minutes in that late game remaining, that Lakers game. So it was a long day. We jumped over the mountain, though, and we got victories across the board. So it was a lot of fun. Great weekend. Had a terrific meeting on Saturday with a bunch of our members about contest selection. And next week, we're going to follow up and combine bankroll management in with that. So it was fun. It's always fun to win. It's fun to see people's reactions. We had a lot of folks this morning get up, and I don't know if they gave up on the slate or they just went to bed earlier, but they woke up to some surprise winnings today. So that's always fun to answer those, stuff that they post in Discord and say, "Oh, beautiful, great wins." So fun weekend, man. Fun weekend. I do have to bring up one negative, though. Man, did I jinx the living daylights out of our man Keegan Bradley.
Oh, man. Oh,
Can you believe that? He was tied for the lead. I was going to settle in, watch the final 5 or 6 holes. Finally had a chance. We mentioned him on our podcast as our main guy and betting him to win at 70-1. And then I swear to you, I got, with basketball and baseball and everything going on, I got distracted for 5 minutes, typed something in there, and here, by the time I finished posting it, he had already hit one in the water.
it
What
was
happened?
one bad shot. He came out of it, got hit a gust of wind, missed the, clearing the water by less than a yard,
Oh,
and double bogeyed, and then that was it, right on that back stretch. But yeah, tough. But
yeah.
bet him top 20, so
Oh,
made
good.
a profit there as well. But that 70-1 would have been really nice. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
good lesson, and last night was a good lesson in NBA talking about
Yes,
the patience. You have to have
right,
patience day to day in DFS and within the slate. And
right.
we just waited for Lowry to crush it, and he did. That was huge. That was the key play. He was terrific in that last game. So
He was. He was the second highest scorer on the entire slate, and he was extremely low owned in a lot of the tournaments, single digit ownership. So, yeah, that was fun to watch, man. It's always great when your guy comes through like that. He buried some like Dame Lillard kind of threes.
he put the team on his back and got it done. So let's sort through who's going to put the team on their back today with this 8 gamer, 8 of the
Yes.
16 teams involved in a back to back, and 3 totals over 230, all on the earlier games, Coach. So we got to get rolling here on the first half of this slate.
We do. It may be after the early lead instead of finishing from off the pace as you would in a horse race, which my horse couldn't finish off the pace. He sat fourth in the Derby, by the way, and just hung
Yep.
and didn't quite get there. But that was fun too. What a weekend! All right, I'm gonna dive in. Quit chattering here because it's gonna take me like 15 minutes just to name how many guys are out in the first game.
Right.
It's hilarious. There's more guys out than in. The first game on the slate is at 7 o'clock. So we have regular start time, 7 Eastern. It's Orlando at Detroit. Detroit's on the first night of a back to back, and they are definitely resting people. It's only a paltry 210 total, so very poor. Detroit -1. The battle of the all teams trying to get the first pick. 16th and 17th in pace, 26th and 16th in defense. But here's the deal, man. Orlando out is Ennis, Ross, Okiki, Porter, and MCW. And then for Detroit, it's Joseph, Plumley, Grant, Ellington, and questionable Diallo.
And
So
Magruder and Okafor are still out too.
yeah,
Yep.
they've never come back yet either. So what do we do here other than, punt, pass, and kick? You know what's really funny though, Andrew? I sort of like a few guys here, and I'm almost embarrassed to say it because it's a 210 total and such a garbage game, but there has to be two or three guys here that are going to get big mid 30s minutes. And I'll tell you who the guys are that I'm taking a gander at. Cole Anthony's playing really well. His numbers are getting better and better, and his price is decent. He's the one guy at guard for Orlando. The other guy that was monster for me this weekend was very cheap Mo Wagner, who played great minutes and produced. And he always produces when he gets the minutes. He's a minute monster for DFS. So his price we'll have to look at across the three different sites. But those two on the Orlando side interest me. And then on the Detroit side, of course, Isaiah Stewart. I almost had a stroke yesterday. He picked up 2 fouls in like 3 minutes. I was furious, and or 2 days ago, Saturday that was, and he still did well. I think that this matchup against Carter, he should be just fine. I think he'll get big minutes. Don't worry about only the amount of minutes he was able to get in that last game because he was in foul trouble throughout. So, it's hilarious, but I may come out of this game, even though it's a 210 total with two teams that have given up, and probably have a few guys. And I'll tell you, Killian Hayes isn't bad either. I mean, am I crazy to think this is as playable for a couple of guys here?
No, I think all those guys are in play. Cole
Good.
Anthony's feeling good after that game-winning shot. Wagner, his price has gone up a little bit, 4,600 DraftKings, 49 FanDuel. Still playable.
Yeah.
Killian Hayes a lot cheaper than Anthony on the other side. Doesn't quite
Good.
have the ceiling. Stewart, he's slowly been priced up here over the last few weeks. 6,300 on both sites, but you can
Yeah.
get him as a power forward on FanDuel, which is kind of
That's the
nice.
key. Yeah.
And then you've got the Jackson brothers, if you will, Jackson 5, Jackson 2, Josh and Frank. Those are the guys who get a lot of shots with all those guys out that you mentioned. So you could go with
Yeah.
one of those guys. Not big into trusting Bay, although he had a very good game last game. So yeah, more likely one of those guards or one of the bigs. Stewart, probably my favorite play that I'll have in a lot of my lineups.
I'm with you. So we have exposure to that, what most people call garbage game. I think it's a good DFS game, though.
Yep, some opportunity for sure. But it does not compare to game two. Indiana, Washington, the other 7
Good
o'clock tip.
Lord.
I'm
You got the big winner. That's the biggest spread or the highest total of the year, I think, isn't it?
245.5 is extreme.
It's up to 246 5 minutes ago on BetUS. So it's climbing.
Okay. Washington favored by 4.5. And what I love about this game is it's an island game for both teams. We have number 1 and number 4 in pace. We have the number 9 and number 10 seed in the East. So these guys are battling. This is a huge game. Love the scenario. We also have injuries on both sides that help out a little bit. We have on the Indiana side Turner out, Sampson out. Question marks for Brogdon, Lamb, and Goga, and then Sumner's probable.
Right.
On the Washington side, actually, I don't think I have any key injuries over there. Do you?
No, I do
Okay.
not.
All right. So the key here is Indiana, and I'm hoping that Brogdon is out because I'd like to fire up LeVert and have him just run the show. These guys are feeling good after destroying Oklahoma City by 57. So LeVert is squarely in the mix here. Washington, surprisingly, is up to 18th defensively, but the teams are pretty bunched up in terms of those numbers from like 15 to 26. So
Yeah.
they're still bad,
They're
defensively.
still bad. I will say, I don't know if you caught it on my weekend podcast. In the last month, they're ninth defensively. I don't know how in God's name they've done it, but they have, ratcheted it up defensively. Just something to keep in mind.
Surprise, surprise. They've been winning games too.
Yeah. And, defense wins.
Funny how those things go together.
Yep.
So Levert is squarely in play for me. Sabonis is probably a lock for
What
me.
kind of a game did he have? Holy crap.
Only a triple double in the first half. I think he was excited to be in his former locale against OKC, and he just destroyed them.
Yeah, I missed that narrative. I liked it, but he wasn't even supposed to really play. And then if he played, you couldn't think he would play full minutes like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't need huge minutes to get it done.
No, true.
So he's in a good spot here now that he's back in the rotation. Brissett is squarely in play for me as well. If those guys continue to be out,
He's been tough. His
he's been
price
really
has really
tough.
gone up though too.
It has, but
He's still making it.
he's still
Yeah.
making it the last 3 games. So I
Yep.
like Brissett. I do want to mention a guy that I did some research on this morning because if Goga's out again, I was trying to figure out who's the backup big here, and it's Amita Brima, who has come up from the G League. He's a pretty long, athletic guy. Got 12 minutes in the last game, and I watched some film on him, and he can really pile up the blocks.
Wow.
He can also finish with both hands. He's also 3 for 3 on his free throws, which is a small sample size, but I like that with a big who can actually
Interesting.
shoot free throws. So I like his skill, the blocks. I mean, he's a kind of guy who can pick up 2 blocks on a possession easily.
Okay.
Minimum
Is
price on
he
both
gonna
sides.
come? Will he come in before Jakar Sampson, do you think?
Yeah, because Sampson had been ruled out again here. That's the
Oh, he's
key.
out?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see that.
So that's why I did some digging.
I
Now,
like it.
he may only get 14 minutes. So I'm not sure I'm going to play him. But here's a perfect guy that if you play multiple lineups, or let's say you only play one lineup, but you play it in like 20 contests and Sabonis is locked in for you, it may not hurt to make one GPP lineup where you take Sabonis out and you put in Brima, just in case it's a surprise blowout or something happens to Sabonis. Brima is going to take those minutes at a value play, and I really think he can get it done if he gets more minutes. So there's a guy to keep an eye on. Don't think I'll go anywhere deeper than that. TJ
Okay.
McConnell's been throwing up some duds lately.
Yeah.
We'll see if Lamb gets in the mix. That would certainly take away from the other guys like Holiday and McDermott. On the Washington side, I'm ready to run it back with a couple guys. Westbrook, for sure. He was dominant against these guys when they played earlier.
Unbelievable.
It was high
He was
scoring.
dominant this weekend again, too. He
Yep,
is unreal.
yep. So when they played before, it was 132 to 124. And the only thing there was that Beal didn't play. But Westbrook was great. Rui had one of his good games, and his price keeps dropping. He's
Yeah.
3,900 on
I
FanDuel.
don't understand that. That makes no sense to me for a guy that plays that many minutes. I know he's not great, but it seems odd to me.
And he, in that matchup against Indiana, was 26, 8, and 3. So he didn't
Whew.
have any trouble scoring against Sabonis and company. So I like this as a perfect scenario where his price is dropping, his minutes are going back up, usage going back up. I don't think he'll score 26 with Beal out there, but I think he'll pay off 3,900 pretty easily. So those are my 2 favorite guys there. I may come out of here with 4 or 5 guys, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you don't have multiple guys in this game. I think you're going to be chasing scores all night if you don't. It's just such a great matchup. I mean, I could make literally a strong case for the 5 starters for Indiana. If it's Brogdon, Levert, Sumner, Brissett, and Sabonis, all 5 of those guys are playable to me. It's making the decision which ones do you play. I guess, Sumner's the easiest fade because he's dinged up a little bit. But, Brogdon and Levert both are fantastic plays. Brissett just keeps getting it done, like you mentioned. I'm just a little concerned about his price. And I don't know what to think with Sabonis after that out of nowhere incredible performance. But like you said, these is an important game for these 2 teams. They're right in those last 2 spots for the play-in tournament. And then the pay up, I mean, until they put Westbrook at like 13.5 or 14, something that's almost not attainable price wise, I just don't know how you don't play him. He just keeps uh, absolutely killing it. And he even shot the ball well in the last game from everywhere. So Westbrook's certainly high on my list. I think Bradley Beal's in a great spot here too. If as of right now, I have Westbrook in there and LeVert in there, which is going to take a bunch of money, but I'm not counting out the Brogdon and Beal part of it either. I've got to mess around with it. The two semi savings guys I'm probably going to look to go at would be Brissett and then Hashimura at that super cheap price. I don't think I'm going to try to follow up Sabonis with that big number that he had. And who knows what Washington's going to do? I don't know if you noticed the last game, but Gafford started the second half over Len. So
Yeah,
maybe
got 25 minutes.
I know. And if you told me you're going to give me 25 plus for Gafford, I'd take him in a heartbeat. And, I'm tempted to do that. But doggone Brooks, man, you just don't know all of a sudden if he's going to pull 10 minutes, So I'm thinking about it because, again, I still think, and it's happened once already, that, he's going to have a 40 plus fantasy point night at 10%, sub 10% ownership, and I'd like to be on the right side of that since I've been calling for it all year. So I'm with you, man. I don't want to spend too long on this game, but it was important because half of my lineup tonight is going to come out of this game.
Me as well.
All right, Golden State, New Orleans. Talk about another juicy one right off the bat. We have two teams playing tonight to play again tomorrow night. So we'll see where they all stand. Golden State is playing at New Orleans. The Pelicans are favored by 3. It's a nice fat 237. We'd be hooting and hollering about that, but it's almost 10 points less than the game before it. So interesting. Great pace, 2-9. And defense, Golden State 7 hanging in there. We know the Pelicans struggle. They're 27th. For me right now, I have Pascal, Lee, and Oubre out with Wiggins questionable. So seriously banged up Golden State there, which brings a lot of guys into play. And the only Q tag on the Pelicans is Adams. I played Jonathan Hayes, took a one out of your playbook, Andrew. I was thinking about you on my GPP yesterday. And Jackson Hayes, not Jonathan Hayes. Isn't Jonathan Hayes a football player? I think he is. Anyway, Jackson Hayes, he did great. He and Hernan Gomez did fine too.
Yep.
So, if Adams is out, those two are both playable in this game without question. Lonzo Ball was other than up until Lowry blew out the doors, Lonzo was probably my best play this weekend too, because Lonzo Saturday had the second highest score. He was in the 60s, and so he's playing ball. And it was funny because I liked the matchup, and then in the back of my head I thought, and this is where what you get with Coach Talk that no one else ever talks about these things, but the psychology of Lonzo taking the court against a team he could smash on the night that his brother is returning from injury.
Yep.
And got all the headlines. All you read everywhere is ball returns, ball returns. Well, he's ball as well. And I think that he sees his little brother getting all that attention, and he wants to say, hey, I've got game too. So I think he's on a bit of a mission right now, to get in the conversation, to at least distinguish between LaMelo and Lonzo when you're in the press. And I like that chip on his shoulder, and he played with it. He was firing away, and I think this is another situation where he's going to get a lot of shots up. So Lonzo is the guy that I like on the Pelicans side. I don't know if I want to pay up for Ingram and Zion this game just because of the Draymond defense. And, I think they're both fine plays, but I'm just not going to have enough salary to do it. Really, the guy to play here is Curry, because you've got all these other guys out and dinged up. He's not playing at 100%, though. I don't care what anybody says. He's injured, his knee, his ankles especially. But man, Pelicans don't defend. This could be a game he just goes bonkers. as of right now, I have Curry as my second huge pay up guy. And I think I want to roll him out there with a little Lonzo. And really, my whole game, I'm going to have one spot left after this, Andrew. But I just love these two games. I think there's all kinds of good stories that go with them, situations with teams fighting for playoff spots, certain guys out. It's just a bit of a perfect storm for these two games. And they are the two highest Vegas over-unders on the slate. I'm not going to shy away from it. So the chips will be in the middle of the table early tonight for me, Mr. Hansen.
Yeah, this one could be very high scoring as well. I don't like it quite as much just based on some of the price tags and the matchups. But Steph, I agree, would be the number one target. No surprise with New Orleans and that bad defense, especially on the perimeter. Bazemore is playable, I think, mid-tier, especially without Oubre and maybe not Wiggins either.
Right.
If Wiggins sits, you may see Mulder get another start. He's a potential value play. I don't like him quite as much. But I agree. I'm kind of shying away here from Ingram and Zion. We can't forget that Golden State is seventh defensively, and even if Wiggins isn't out there, you've got Bazemore giving Ingram trouble. You've got Draymond to deal with Zion. So although it could be very high scoring, I just don't love the matchups for those New Orleans guys. Lonzo probably a slightly better matchup, but he could get Bazemore or Wiggins if Wiggins is starting. So I like Steph here probably as the key guy, and I probably am just gonna use most of my spots for that Indiana-Washington game, and maybe more like a one-off out of this one.
Wow. Yep. Okay. Don't say that I didn't tell you so. This game is juicy, almost as much as Indiana-Washington.
Yep, we will see. All right, Portland and Atlanta.
All right, I passed the rest of the games. Just kidding.
Portland and Atlanta, not too shabby here either. 234.5. Atlanta favored by 1.5. This is the only 8 o'clock tip. Back-to-back for Portland after that solid win against the Celtics. We've got slower pace here, 19th and 23rd, but we've got two bad defenses and two very good offenses. So that's how we get to a nice high total. Injury news on the Atlanta side, Snell questionable, Bogdan probable with the hamstring. Now, in this one, I'm looking more at the guards and the wings here. We know that the guards can do well against Atlanta and vice versa against Portland. So really all the 1, 2, 3 for Portland in play for me. They're better prices on FanDuel across the board. Same thing with Covington. Now, that Snell piece of news is pretty significant. He's a very good defender, so he could impact this a little bit. If he sits, I think Solomon Hill will start again. He's decent as well. But Lillard, really stepped up against Boston, kind of got back in the groove. McCollum also had his best game in quite a while.
He did.
So those guys are both in play for me. Covington, very tempting on FanDuel. It is a back-to-back, so not quite as fired up about him. Then with Atlanta, Trae Young gets that great matchup. He hasn't been smashing lately. He's been dinged up, kind of working his way back into the groove. So he's really a secondary option compared to these other pay-up guys we've already talked about, Westbrook and Curry. And then Bogdan might just be a little bit too pricey for me with a hamstring issue going on and Trae Young out there. So I don't think I'll get to him. And then Herter is getting more usage off the bench, but he's still a little bit pricey. So, a pretty good game environment here. I still don't like it as much as Indiana, Washington, but I wouldn't argue with especially any of the 1 through 4 starters on Portland.
It makes sense. Do you think you could make a call for me and give DraftKings FanDuel and Yahoo a call and let them know I need a little extra salary today?
I know, seriously.
This game normally on a regular slate would probably be our feature game. And I mean, it's just a great matchup. But I'm probably not going to go there as much as crazy as that sounds. But I'm not going to have enough salary or enough spots. Damon McCullum played their tails off yesterday. That was a close victory that they pulled out. They got a lot of minutes. So did Powell. So I think that plays against them a little bit. Covington, Collins neutralized, Nurkic and Capella neutralized. So I'm not going to go there. But Trae Young, I is probably playing, I'm thinking 75%. He just doesn't quite look like himself. So I think his ceiling is held down. They've made Bogdanovich so stinking expensive that you really have to take one of your buy-up spots almost to roster him. So I just don't like the mix of the slower pace, Portland on a back-to-back, and some guys not playing at 100%. So it is going to be brutal to watch this and not have exposure. But as of right now, I don't have anybody from this game. And again, on another slate, I may have 3 or 4. So it is what it is.
I'm with you.
This next game is easy. Philadelphia at Chicago. Philly on the second night of a back-to-back. So I understand these two teams want to win. Philly wants to hang on to first. But I guarantee you, I mean, we're here in the morning on Monday. By the time all the news breaks this afternoon, there's no way Philly's playing all their guys. I just don't see it happening. So I don't trust who's going to be in, who's going to be out. So I don't want to recommend anybody on that side. Plus, Philly's got the second best defense in the entire league, and they do slow down the pace. Now, pace is better than you'd expect, 12th and 11th. So they're both, above average, but the line screams to me Philly is sitting a player or two because Philly's only favored by 5, which you would think full board, all their guys playing full minutes, they'd be a little bit more favored than that. And the total's only 211.5. And with these big 240s and 230s games, it's hard. When you're talking about leaving, projected Vegas 30 more points on the board, that's enormous amount of DFS opportunity. So, you've got the Levine doubtful and Vuk questionable, yet they're only 5-point dogs to Philly. So, and Philly hasn't announced anybody out as of yet. But I look at multiple guys questionably. I think Joel maybe sits, maybe Ben. He's still not playing at 100% either. So the total in this game, the situation with the unknowing who's in, who's out, and all the monster games, this is going to be a full pass for me pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about this game either. If everybody plays, I could see a value play of somebody like Seth Curry, who's really shooting well lately, up to 44% on his three-pointers on the season, really cheap. If Embiid sits, that'd be great. I'd look at Dwight Howard. On the Chicago side, if Vucevic sits, Thaddeus Young was dominant. He deserves to have just one name, Coach. It's Thaddeus. I mean,
I love Thaddeus, although he may
done.
have to face Embiid if Embiid plays. That doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Other than that, these guys are pretty cheap without Levine, and they're getting more shots if Vucevic is out too. So then you could look at somebody like a Patrick Williams, a Temple maybe. But yeah, in general, this is plan on it being a pass. Maybe we get some news to give us a one-off.
I'm with you.
All right, the other 9 o'clock game, New York and Memphis. 218.5 total. Memphis favored by 3.5. And these two teams had a surprising game recently. They went to overtime. It was 133 to 129, which is a lot for the teams that are 4th and 8th defensively. New York is still last in the league in pace.
I think that game went over by 34, by the way, from the Vegas spread.
That was a shocker. We do have a back-to-back here for New York, although it was an easy win over Houston. Randall was dominant, but he only had to play 30 minutes. Barrett played 40, so he may not be quite as sharp. And we do have big news here, Coach. We've got Noel. I'm going to call him doubtful because he sprained his ankle and actually had x-rays on it. They came up negative, but I'd say it's unlikely he plays. Burks is also doubtful. He's trying to get his conditioning back after being in the protocol. So If Noel sits, then Taj Gibson's going to be a key value play to consider. Really cheap on both sites. He's in that crowded power forward position on FanDuel. At least it's crowded for me tonight because there's multiple guys I want to play, including Sabonis
Right.
and Stewart. He won't have the easiest matchup against Joval, but he should get as many minutes as he can handle. He did have to play 32 yesterday with Noel going down early. So I'm a little worried about him, but he's going to be hard to ignore if he's starting at that price. Don't think I'm too fired up about anybody else with New York. If Burks is out again, these guards are really cheap quickly. So maybe a one-off. On the Memphis side, we've got Grayson Allen questionable with that hand injury. It is his left hand, by the way. Bain got the start last time, played 31 minutes. He's a potential value play. But I'm just not expecting as high a scoring game as that last one. So even guys like Ja, who ended up with pretty good numbers, I'm not going to go there. I think Bullock will guard him and slow him down. Joval becomes interesting for me if Noel sits. I think he's got the power and the size to be effective against Taj Gibson, and he's a little bit cheaper on FanDuel. You could look there. Other than that, maybe a shooting guard for Memphis. I'm looking at Dylan Brooks at 5,000 is a decent price, and Melton off the bench at 4,100. So if Grayson Allen is out, I could see a value play with Memphis, one of those guards, or possibly Joval.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we're back in this scenario. I'm going to sound similar to the last game, but we just have, three games here that are so perfect. It's hard to really want to even go a one-off. You've got the slowest team in the league in the Knicks, and you have two of the top 8 teams defensively in the entire league, 4th and 8th. So it's going to be slow. I know that Thibodeau doesn't care about minutes for his players, but it is the second night of the back-to-back. You had monster minutes from Barrett last night. Even if he is going to play in big minutes, you would think he's going to have a little bit of tired legs, and he's going to have to drag Dylan Brooks around. So I have no interest in those guys. I think Bullock can do a little, decent job enough to slow Morant down to some extent. Not thrilled about the Bain splitting minutes with Melton situation if Allen is out, and he's on the downside of questionable in my opinion. I agree with you. I doubt Noel plays. So, in a complete emergency play, if you have to go Taj Gibson at center, he is super cheap, probably going to play, even though he played a lot last night, probably 34, 35 minutes. So not bad. I can't pull the trigger to pay up for anybody though, like a Joval, etc. So this is going to be 100% pass for me unless some news shifts around that changes things. So pretty cut and dry for me. I mean, I'm not gonna pull a guy out from those juicy, smash it games to force a guy in one of these games where it just doesn't fit to me. So, all right, we've got 2 games after hour slate. We've been kicking butt on the after hour slate, and this one is an interesting one. So we should have some good options for plays with these 2 teams at the 10 Eastern spot. I've got, let's see, San Antonio and Utah. San Antonio on the second night of a back-to-back, and we know Pop pulled some of his shenanigans yesterday with some odd guys starting and rotating, which you can expect. Utah's favored by 7.5, not that much. 220.5 is the over-under. Pace, not the greatest at 20 for San Antonio. Utah right in the middle at 14-15. As far as defense, solid. San Antonio 13th, Utah 3rd. So for the 3rd consecutive game, after having those bonanza games, we've got 2 teams that are slower that play good defense. It's amazing how, usually we have the great offense, fast team against a slower, great defense team or vice versa. But the fact that the fast teams with bad D are playing each other, and all of these, good defensive teams slower are playing each other, makes it pretty easy for DFS, in my opinion. But again, for the after hours slate, let's talk about a few guys here because that's a whole different, whole different deal. I doubt that I'm going to be using too many players from this game in my main slate. But let's talk about the key news. DeJounte Murray is questionable. He's missed the last game or two, and that's a huge piece of the puzzle. If he's in, he becomes playable. I mean, if he's going to go without restrictions. However, and he didn't play last night, so maybe he's feeling close to 100%. They held him out last night, so he'd be fresh for this game against Utah. And if that's the case, then he may be worth a pay up because we've got Conley still out, and they have had trouble guarding point guards very effectively with him out of the lineup. So I need to see literal coach speak or beat writer saying Murray playing with no minutes restriction. That's the only way I'd play him, but I may give him a roll if that's the case. All the rest of the guys, DeRozan's going to get Royce O'Neal defense. And, I know he rested last night and he's dangerous, but I don't want to spend up there with all the salary I've already used. The other guys are just all interchangeable. I'm not even going to waste my time with the Vassals and Johnsons and Pirtles and Eubanks, and it goes on and on. So not going to even think about any of those guys, even in a GPP. On the Utah side, it's the usual suspects in a situation where Conley sits. When Conley sits, either Ingles or Clarkson are usually pretty darn good plays. One or the other, generally 6, 7, maybe even 8x. But determining which one in this kind of a matchup for me is going to be determined on if DeJounte Murray plays or not, because he's an all NBA type defender. And, I want to, if he's going to play, I think he'll guard some Ingles and Clarkson, and that would move them off my list. So I need to see news there. You can always go a little bit cheaper with a Bogdanovich. He has been stepping up since, guys have been out and not playing 100%. He has done a lot of scoring, but a little scoring dependent against a game that doesn't have a ton of pace. He's an option, but probably not going to go there. Niang's okay. He's getting minutes with guys out, low ceiling, not thinking about that too much. And I don't know if you watched Gobert that closely recently, Andrew, but he's had a lot of games with 20, 23 minutes, 25 minutes. He's not 100%. I think they're trying to now save his legs for the playoffs. So I would assume in the back office there, the coaches have said, let's win games, try to get the number 1 seed if we can, but let's not do it and have an exhausted Gobert going into the playoffs. So I don't have any knowledge of this. This is just me watching, understanding a Quinn Snyder type strategy. I think what they want to do with Gobert is let him play 20, 25, maybe 28 in a close game minutes max, and then just let him keep fresh legs because they need him as an anchor defensively, or they're not going to make it in the playoffs. Not into the playoffs, but through the playoffs, I should say. So I'm just wary of spending up for Gobert under those circumstances. So not a lot of options here for me. Going to try to steer, but I'm going to keep a good eye on DeJounte.
Yeah, I'm really similar here on this one. With San Antonio on a back-to-back, you would, against Utah, you would probably have to pay me to get me to play one of these Spurs. Not only is it a back-to-back, but the key guys, Murray and DeRozan, have been priced up in a big way on FanDuel, and they've played overtime in 3 of their last 4 games. So it's just,
that's right.
The stars are colliding. Let's avoid San Antonio on the main slate. We're going to have to consider them a little bit more on the after-hours slate. With Utah, also similar here. I would consider Ingles potentially, or Bogdanovich, who really has been stepping up in a big way offensively without Conley and Mitchell. but just not as excited about them on the main slate. So that's it. Let's move to the other game here at 10 o'clock. Denver and the Lakers, ESPN game, 219 total. Denver favored by 3, back-to-back for the Lakers, of course, after losing to Toronto. On the Denver side, Barton and Monte Morris are still out. On the Lakers side, LeBron is questionable. He left early last night with some ankle soreness. Schroeder has been ruled out. So we'll get to that in a minute. But starting with Denver, again on the main slate, I am just not too fired up about this one, Coach. We've got slow pace on both sides, 25th and 17th. Lakers are still number one defensively. So I don't really like any of the starters price tags for Denver. Gordon continues to be ultra attractive at 4,300 on FanDuel, but he's not in Orlando anymore, is he? He's in Denver, and he's out there to play defense and grab some rebounds. He's not there to score. So I think I'm going to try to avoid that temptation. I actually would be most likely on the main slate to play one of these bench guys, JaMychal Green or Millsap. On DraftKings, they're both in the 3K range and getting decent minutes, 18 to 20. So they could hit value, but this is mostly a pass for me on the Denver side. With the Lakers, I do like this a little bit better because if LeBron is out with Schroeder, then we've got a lot of usage to open up. And Caruso as the starting point guard, he's only 3,000 on DraftKings, 3,700 on FanDuel. That's a great price. THT is also in play off the bench as that key usage guy running that show. So I like both of those guys. Kuzma, how about 36 minutes off the bench yesterday? Scored it. He's in the mid 5K range on both sites. That's probably it for me. I think AD is a little pricey. Solid defense from Gordon. So really just trying to take advantage of those Lakers absences with Caruso or maybe THT.
Yeah, this is sort of a gross game, too. I mean, that's the only way I can say it. I mean, I definitely don't expect LeBron to play. Did you hear his comments, what he said in the press, by the way?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was really alarming and sort of sad.
Oh, the thing about not being 100% for the rest of his career?
Yeah, he said he feels like he's not going to be able to. So I don't know if that's the reality of he's feeling stuff body-wise with his ankle sprain and stuff that he just is trying to, warn people he's not going to be the unstoppable LeBron here as he ages more and more and that bald spot on the back of his head gets bigger and bigger. I mean, I told you before, and I'll tell you again, Father Time is the only undefeated person that I know.
Right.
I mean, he gets you. So, yeah, that's a little sobering, for LeBron fans for sure. Is it him just frustrated that he's injured, not feeling great? It could be, but we'll just see. I mean, it's realistic. I mean, he's played minutes like no one has ever played in the history of the league in the time frame that he's played it, and that's a fact. I mean, it's documented because he made the finals 10 years in a row or some lunacy like that. So, it's got to catch up to you sometime. And he definitely did not look like himself yesterday, and I think he'll be out. They're going to try to probably just tool him up. They've already realized that, just to get in the top 10 at this point, they'll just take wherever they get and then try to make their run because they have now fallen to 6th and about to slip maybe even further. So bottom line is, LA's a bit in shambles. I do agree with you on the late night slate. Caruso's probably the best play at that price for the minutes that he'll get. I also agree that Talen Horton-Tucker is a nice explosive guy to get off the bench because when he's in, they do look for him to score. He is a scorer, and they do get him the ball. So I think he's a decent spot. Don't want to spend up for Davis on this type of slate or Drummond against the Joker. He'll probably get in foul trouble. Just not crazy about the game at all for the main slate. Two guys I mentioned possibly in the after hours. And on the Denver side, I'm with you, man. It's every time I look at Gordon, I consider him because that price, you look at who's around him at that price, and it's embarrassing for him. I mean, there's guys that come off the bench and play 15, 18 minutes. They're priced the same as him. So, I mean, that's how far he's fallen DFS wise and offensively, really, since he's been with the Nuggets. I just, I'm going to keep doing like you are, just ignore it and not get tempted. He will probably have a decent game at some point, but I'm not going to risk it. You know, Porter, do you go with Porter or Jokic with Davis type defense and Drummond's big body? I don't think it's necessary. Um, Possibility for a PJ Dozier. His minutes have been here and there. He's getting a little healthier himself, maybe as a punt play. Capazzo, I've played him a few times. He's been okay. But if Caruso's going to be his main matchup, Caruso's a dog on defense. He's going to harass the heck out of Campazzo. So I'm not crazy about that either. So again, you know, at 7:30, I'm going to be watching that game, and I might be able to go to bed either as a winner or loser at about 10. Because
Yeah,
I don't have much exposure in these late games, and I've got to do my homework just to be able to painfully select an after-hours slate.
that's right. We will mostly be fading it on the main slate, but we will be ready to dissect it for the after hours slate. And if you're new to
Yeah.
the program, we do provide full lineups to our members on FanDuel and Yahoo for these slates and the DraftKings Coaches Clipboard. So jump in with us and take advantage of that. Go to dfscoachtalk.com, select whichever length of membership you'd like, and then we will send you an email to get you into our Discord. We give out those main slate lineups about 20 to 30 minutes before lock, and then the after hours lineups about 20 minutes before that lock. So we're following that news all the way through the evening, and we've got a great collection of members who are chipping in and keeping an eye on things for us as well. So tremendous community. We'd love to have you join us. Any questions, reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. You can also follow the coach at JOESARVADI. You can find me at Language Olympic. And if you are watching on YouTube, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So go ahead and do that. If you don't mind, we'll continue to do this podcast 7 days a week in front of the paywall for you. Any final thoughts here, Coach?
Yeah, I have a real quick impromptu question that we're going to give away a 3-day membership for the first person that responds to this question correctly on YouTube. So our main man, Joe Stanton, is ratcheting up, getting our name out there, doing a phenomenal job. And he had recommended that we do a contest. So here's the question for a free 3-day membership with Coach Talk. Who currently leads the NBA this season, 2020-2021 season, in charges taken? Not per game, total charges taken in the NBA. And you can't say it, Andrew. Do you know that answer, though?
Oh, I'm not even going to give any hints.
Okay. So whoever responds on YouTube with that correctly, when you respond, we'll announce who the winner is, and then all we need is your email and your name, and Joe will get that 3-day membership out to you. So let's crush it today. We'll go for three days in a row with some big winners, and then just keep rolling it all week. So fantastic. Great stuff, Andrew. Great to have you back, man. Those shows get lonely on the weekends.
Thanks. Great to be back. And again, great performance over the weekend. So we are going to try to keep it rolling tonight. So thank you all for tuning in on behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team. I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.